Yeah.
Yeah, hey, that's Greg Bach singing along here this morning on this Tuesday, August 6th. This is Up North News Radio. I'm Pat Low. He, Greg Buxton Waukesha. Here we are. Here, see, we're right here. But this is just the opening to say, hey, we're not,
We're
we're not,
here.
we're not ready yet. Put the curtain back down. We're putting together this radio show that's going to air at 6:06 across the Civic Media Radio Network. What are we talking about, you ask? We got 4.5 minutes to find out. Now we're going to talk a bit about Wall Street's temper tantrum yesterday. We'll talk to Sharita Booker about some of the more popular social media posts for Up North News. Christina Laurie talks about some of the uplifting stories in our newsletter. And we thought we were going to spend this morning talking about a new running mate for Kamala Harris, but we're still waiting. So we'll talk about the wait and other things in the news and a visit with Chad Holmes and so much more. Coming up 4 minutes from right now across the Civic Media Radio Network. We'll see you then. Meanwhile, here at The Secret Show.
Secrets.
All right. So you got Sharita and Christina and Dropbox there, and I just put in a Twitter piece of audio under 606.
Yep, I already got that.
So we got all that. I just put in bumper music, and I think we're good.
For Christina's
Christina's,
segment?
yeah, it's not, there's no music on there, so we have to add that because it's only going to run like, what, 13 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, so you'll live out.
So, yeah, tape in, live out.
All right. Hey, and folks, listening to the Secret Show, that's radio talk.
Yeah. And you can go right into Sharita at 6:20 as well.
Great. So, excellent. Thank you.
Okay. See y'all soon. Bye.
Bye.
Do they really go away? Yeah. Yes, I mute my mic so I can slurp my coffee. I'll be back.
That Pat Kreitlow guy. What a jerk. Am I right, everybody?
Oh, wait.
Just kidding.
Oh, the mute button's right here. Oh, sorry.
Oh, darn it.
across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Wissota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. It is 6:06 on this Tuesday morning, August 6th, 2024. It is a beautiful day to have you here up north, live from Lake Wissota, from wherever you're listening across the Civic Media Radio Network, through the app, on social media, or on demand by podcast. Thanks for taking us along to get this Tuesday started. I got a question for you. Have you hit up the sweet corn stands yet? It is time. I can attest from last night's dinner, which included some fresh sweet corn from Klinger Farms up here just north of Chippewa Falls, and it is definitely sweet corn season. You need some advice for dinner tonight? Stop by and get some. It'll be time. I love this time of year. So do dental floss makers, come to think of it, and dentists for that matter. So be sure you brush and floss after that. Coming up today, the waiting. What did Tom Petty say? The waiting is the hardest part. I really thought that they were going to announce Kamala Harris's running mate last night. I expected the vice president to make an announcement, decide who she had picked, because the big first appearance is today at a rally in Philadelphia, and then tomorrow here in the Eau Claire area. But nay. So we'll continue to talk about the speculation, any tea leaves that can be read. It's fun. The tea leaves are fun. People are looking at flight trackers to see if anything is left, Holman Field in St. Paul, or, airports in Philadelphia. It's just funny. So we'll talk about the wait for that. It's Tuesday. A couple of my colleagues will be along. Social media manager Sharita Booker will talk about some of the more popular posts of the past week. Christina Laurie talks about some of the uplifting stories that you can find in our daily newsletter. We will talk about what happened on Wall Street yesterday, which appeared to be a combination temper tantrum over interest rates and a bubble bursting over some tech stocks. Nothing in there really getting to the fundamentals of the economy that remain strong, but boy, that sure didn't stop the people who love rooting against the economy, as long as it helps them politically. So we'll talk a bit about that. Frankly, I'm just wondering, Wall Street hiccups, is that the new imaginary migrant caravans that we're going to hear for the rest of the campaign? We'll see. Let's see. Brittany Merlot will be along with the forecast. Chad Holmes will talk about his show on Bull Falls Radio in Wausau coming up right after this program. But speaking of the weather, it was pretty nasty in parts of Wisconsin yesterday with high winds knocking over some trees. There was at least one tornado warning, flash flooding in the Boscobel area and elsewhere. And this morning, the rain is moving on, and we now have some dry and significantly cooler temperatures to report. About 10 to 15 degrees cooler than this time yesterday. It's 56 up here on Lake Wissota. Hayward's at 45, Park Falls 49, Wausau 54, Green Bay's at 60, La Crosse 59, it's 55 in Rapids, 60 in Oshkosh, 61 in Madison, and over there in beautiful downtown Waukesha, it's 59 degrees. Where we find Greg Bach, again in his Milwaukee's Brewers jersey, getting ready to cheer on the Brewers as they come back from a day off. Look at that. He's already lost his train of thought. Is today the 6th? Yeah. And head to Atlanta. There you go. Properly attired for the Atlanta series, Mr. Bach. Good morning.
Yeah, I am. I have so much Brewers gear now. Like, seriously, it's craziness that I'm stretching while I'm telling you that. But I take issue with you with something, Pat.
Okay.
When the show opened this morning, not 4 minutes ago, you said, "Welcome to a beautiful day up on Lake Wissota." I'm like, is he having the same day I'm? Because right now I'm looking at the window and it looks like we're just about right before a plague. It just looks awful outside. It's gray, it's windy, it's dark, it's cold, and I'm just like, what did we do?
Oh,
what did we do?
Remember how I said the rain is moving out? I guess I could have been a bit more specific. Still basically from Marinette down to Platteville, which would be the southeastern third of the state, Pat. It's still rainy. Thunderstorms are moving across, basically moving along I-94 between Madison and Milwaukee. It's heading right for you. But then it's going to be gone. And then, as Alicia points out on Facebook here, as a summer person, the cool weather is a slight relief. The big news here, is that for the first time in over a week, the Kreitlow household windows are open and there's no more 900% humidity with the conditioner on. There's actual fresh air moving in and out of the house. It's a beautiful thing. And the same will happen to you later today.
Oh, I mean, it's 66 degrees right now, so I'm not upset about the cool weather. I like it. It's very, very nice. There's something about going outside at night or early morning and it's hot out and you're like, because this will only get worse.
That's right. And it may yet again. I mean, it's only early August, but that last spell of hot, really humid weather is broken at least for a little while. So I will take that. I mentioned the sweet corn. I don't know if do you have a place near you where you like to get some that's pretty fresh?
There's some roadside markets in Kenosha and Racine you can go to and pick some up. My mother-in-law always she'll just show up, be like, I got corn. I'm like, yeah, you do.
Yep. Oh, it's so good at this time of year, especially when you drench it in an unhealthy amount of butter. That's the best part. Yes.
I'm glad you brought this up.
Okay.
I want to blow your mind a little.
Go for it.
There's nothing wrong with dumping the corn into a vat of butter and just going to town.
Yep.
But I challenge you and everyone listening, next time you get an ear of corn in your hand, it's nice and roasty and fresh and hot. Throw some lime juice on there.
Lime juice on your sweet corn.
I was incredulous at best, vulgar at worst when I was brought the idea.
Okay.
And I tried it, and it brings a crispiness to the corn and a lightness and a freshness, and it gives flavor. And it's so delicious. I'm not saying don't do butter.
Along with butter and salt, or just by itself?
By itself.
By itself.
Yeah. Yeah, because let's face it, you're going to have more than one ear.
Well, yes, let's not kid around. So you could experiment with a little lime juice, or I suppose if you've got a lime, like we always do for certain beverages, you just rub a little slice of lime on there.
There you go.
Well, you know what? We got a couple of years left. I may have to report back to you this time tomorrow.
I can't wait.
All right. The other thing that we had with it was still some of the leftover ribs from the birthday party a month ago. It was a month ago today, and we had way more ribs. People ate up the roasted chicken like crazy, and I think people just didn't want to get their fingers all sticky at a party and everything, because they were really good ribs. So we thought, so we wrapped them all in little 3-4 rib packs, wrapped them all in aluminum foil, and froze them. We thought, let's see how this turns out. Now, you've already heard me rave that if you get ribs at a restaurant and you warm them up the next day in an air fryer, you put some barbecue sauce on there, that they're better than the night before. I am happy to report that if you freeze them and then thaw them for a day and then put them in the air fryer, same exact thing. Just perfect. I had no idea that ribs had that kind of staying power. But some ribs and corn yesterday. That's as summer as it gets.
I'm
making you cry.
Well, I think I need to start working in the, Bridget, we need to move to Lake Wissota one day, because I just feel like the lives that the two of you live are just this idyllic.
Oh yeah, that's exact. Yeah, that's we have always prided ourselves on being much like the duck that tries to appear calm above the surface while paddling like hell underneath. But yes, Dr. Kreitlow puts together an amazing meal whenever she can, in this case, of the ribs and the corn, and she steams some pea pods, and At Farm Girl, she does it just right. She does.
Wow.
Want to hear what you're thinking on the lime juice on the corn, or any other little summer hacks for your meals? 855-75-CIVIC, 855-75-CIVIC. You can call or text us, or you can put a comment on our Facebook page for Up North News or Civic Media, or on the Up North News YouTube page as well. We were watching some gymnastics last night, of course, for the Olympics, and at first I thought, is this Is there like an earthquake in Paris? Like every woman is falling off the balance beam at some point yesterday.
Yeah.
And then somebody put together a little clip, and I don't know if I didn't watch everything, so maybe NBC caught it too. But it all fell in 3 different clips. It looked like they fell in the exact same part of the beam. And so I'm wondering if there's, an equipment person someplace who's going to be in a lot of trouble when those clips come out there, or if that was just sheer coincidence. But it was not. I turned to Sherry at one point. I'm like, well, Nadia Comaneci is not here today because Simone Biles fell off the beam. A couple of other women fell off the beam. It just wasn't the right night for that.
I heard about Simone Biles. Yeah.
Yeah. But she still medaled in that and floor exercises. But even on that, she stepped out of bounds twice. So it was not, it was not perfection, but again, who are we? Who are we? I couldn't get up on the balance beam without falling right back over,
Pat, the technique of some of those performers was quite off, and I must say quite disappointed in
disappointing.
Olympics.
Oh, how could they not be perfect? Watching the pole vaulter guy, whose name escapes me here, was it Rando, something? Anyway, he broke his own world record again for the pole vault. And what I'd like to see, and again, maybe somebody's already done this, but I kind of remember the Munich Games, but it was, a tragedy, and I was very young then. I definitely remember the Munich Games, Bruce Jenner and company. And I'd love to see where the bar was, how the world record has changed over the years for that pole vault. Because now they're at heights that you do not think is as humanly possible.
Also, you're like, I know this probably has to go back to the days of war, but you're like, why do we still do this one?
I asked that too last night. I did on that one, and there were a couple of others like, why do we still do that particular one? But they add some now and then. They had kind of like a kayak, they called it a kayak cross or something. It was basically whitewater rafting on a course, and that was pretty cool. So I like when they add things. But yeah, some of these, like the discus and the shot put. I mean, strength, yes, I get it, but who throws anything like that?
Just them.
And trust me, again, I'm not going to pick a fight with either the men or the women who are doing that kind of thing. We've got a few things to talk about in the news today. Certainly that Wall Street temper tantrum, and the wait goes on for a running mate for Kamala Harris. Wherever you're listening across Wisconsin on this Tuesday morning, when you're here, you're up north, live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network. Now it's time to check in with our social media manager, Sharita Booker, for some of the more popular posts over at Up North News on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and more. Sharita, how are you?
Good, Pat. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. Here we are in the midst of the Paris Games, and of course, that's going to make for some popular posts all around, and perhaps none more so than Simone Biles, after winning a gold for the team competition, winning in the all-around, winning gold there as well. I mean, it's just been such a games for her. And it's always nice when friends or family can take part in this in some way, shape, or form. Some spouses, they have jobs and things that don't allow them to get away, but that's not the case for Simone Biles's partner, and folks really responded well to that.
Yep, former Packers safety Jonathan Owen got the okay to miss a week of training camp to support Simone Biles during the Olympics. Owen is now with the Chicago Bears. Boo.
Ooh.
But when he did play for the Packers, Simone Biles attended every home game. And that post had more than 6,000 likes on Facebook. Paul said the Bears should be looked up to for giving Owens time off. It's the right thing to do. And Jesse said, Biles is the GOAT. I hope deep down inside she remains a Packers fan. And I think she will, because she always said that she loved it here, and Wisconsinites were super welcoming to her.
and there's this comment by Jesse who says, yeah, but Jordan Love is the new owner of the Bears. So technically Jonathan is still on the payroll since we've kind of owned the Bears for the past several years here. And somebody else noted the only sad thing about this is that Simone already has more medals this year than the Bears will have wins this year. So, we can always have fun with this. And I don't know when the Bears come up to Lambeau Field, but I would not doubt that we would see Simone there as well. So let's take a look at one of these summer activities. There have been so many, just amazing activities, so many sites. They're up here in Chippewa Falls. We will occasionally see like the Blue Angels or one of these other groups whenever there's an air show, not even in the area, sometimes just on their way to a show. And we had a very popular post dealing with the Thunderbirds.
Yeah, so the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds were in town for Milwaukee's Air and Water Show, and they're the third oldest formal flying aerobatic team in the world, and planes fly up to 800 miles per hour doing loops and rolls just 18 inches apart. And that post had more than 2,000 likes. And Quinn said, saw the show on Saturday, and it was my first time. Loved it. She also included a cool video, so you can check it out. And Cynthia said, I met and spoke with the first woman Thunderbird, left wing, twice. She was doing what I always wanted to do. It was amazing both times. And she also posted a picture of the two of them if you want to check that out in our comments section. And I was lucky enough I missed the Air and Water Show because I was in the Dells this weekend, or during the weekend that they were here. But I did get to see them practice. So while I was at the park with my kids, we saw them in formation and practicing in the sky. So it was super cool and loud.
Yes, very loud. And a couple of people did make comments about that as well. But yeah, I know that as I've been driving through central Wisconsin, especially if you're near Volk Field and things like that, there's a lot of space, shall we say, out there without commercial traffic for the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels and all these other groups to participate. So I'm glad they're still being well received. All right, well, that's a nice summertime activity. Let's look toward the fall, and we actually go back to the Green Bay Packers to wrap things up here. Again, a popular post in part because this post makes it clear that the Packers are always going to be here to stay and not get caught up in some of the usual funny business between teams and their host cities.
Yeah, so a fun fact here is the Green Bay Packers are the only major pro sports team in North America that's publicly owned. And unlike other teams owned by wealthy people or partnerships, the Packers are held by over 500,000 shareholders known as the nonprofit group Green Bay Packers, Inc. And no one can own more than 4% of the team. So that post had more than 2,000 likes on our Facebook. And we had a lot of proud shareholders in the comments, like Janice, who said, and many of my family, including myself, are among them. And Eileen, who said, I am an owner, shareholder, and wear my cheese head with pride.
Because people do feel that stake in it. And yeah, it's not exactly the same. The stockholders don't have the same rights as other shareholders, but it's just that personal investment, which sometimes means just as much. And it's what has kept us having a team in the NFL's smallest market. We have a Major League Baseball team in baseball's smallest market. This is certainly one of the smaller markets for the NBA, but again, just gives you a taste of how supportive the fans can be when they know that the team is committed to the community as well. All right, well, there's our top three stories, but while I got you, I have to ask you probably are a regular at the Wisconsin State Fair. It's probably not too far away from you. I know we talked to Christina Laurie last week about some of the popular foods there. So let me ask you as well, while the State Fair is going on, some of your favorite stuff. It might be food, drink, might be some of the things to do. What's on Sharita Booker's most popular list for the State Fair?
So every year I take my kids to the state fair and we go ride rides, eat. My favorite thing, I know it's so lame, but I love roasted corn on the cob. Like it's my go-to. I have that every year. And then we also check out the Sporky's finalists and we'll walk around trying to find those, taste them. I know this year it's a lot of sweet stuff. I'm not a sweet person, but I'm still gonna check out a few things. And I'll go back a second time just to eat without my kids.
Oh, like hell, you're not a sweet person. We know you better than that. Maybe sweet foods, that might be something different. And there's nothing wrong with the roasted corn, because a lot of times you're going to get this stuff fairly fresh. They're going to dip it in way more butter than you're supposed to, as you
Yep.
would when you were at home. So no, it's an outstanding treat. So no, that sounds like a lot of fun. All these fairs are great all around Wisconsin, and we appreciate everything you do and getting all the comments from people about it. Sharita Booker, social media manager for us at Up North News. Sharita, thanks so much. Have a great day.
You too, Pat.
And coming up, we'll talk to Christina Laurie, who puts together our daily newsletter. In today's newsletter, a lot about the state fair and state fair food, but also how Vice President Kamala Harris has recently endorsed that new proposal by President Biden that would make major changes to the U.S. Supreme Court by instituting term limits and having a more binding, enforceable code of ethics. Probably quite necessary, given the latest revelation that Justice Clarence Thomas failed to publicly disclose additional private travel that was provided by a wealthy conservative donor. That, according to a U.S. senator who has uncovered more records about Clarence Thomas. So yeah, that might come in handy. Wall Street is going to be opening higher. Japan has already claimed back a big chunk of what was lost yesterday in trading that was seen in part as a temper tantrum that the Federal Reserve has not done enough to cut rates, and that traders want rates to be cut maybe a half a point in September, not 0.25%. And it was their way of saying they think that if that doesn't happen, the economy is going to be in trouble. And you also had a series of tech stocks and other stocks that had been overvalued, because, again, the recovery has been so good. We continue to be the wonder of the world in terms of economic recovery from the pandemic, with clearly more ground to be gained. But so many jobs have been added, and wages have gone up, stock prices have gone up, and in some cases, folks thought it had gone up too high. But every indication yesterday seemed to be that the fundamentals were still in place, and that this would be more in the correction rather than a harbinger of something worse. But of course, you wouldn't know that from listening to folks like Eric Hovde and Donald Trump yesterday, who were clearly continuing to root for a recession for the U.S. economy. Not the kind of thing you want to see heading into an election season. All right, Christina's here on the other side with some of our uplifting stories next. This is Up North News Radio on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Take from me.
And now it's time for the Uplift, our visit with Christina Laurie, who puts together our newsletter. You can sign up for it at UpNorthNews.wi.com. Christina, good morning. How are you?
Great. How are you, Pat?
Pretty good. We've got 1 week of the Olympics in the books, a few days left. How have you liked them so far?
I was going to say, I was going to use the saying, this is like my Olympics, but literally is.
Literally is. And for a lot of these folks, and you have been kind of our chief tracking officer when it comes to all of the Wisconsin tie-ins to the Olympics. A lot of Badgers on there. Wisconsin folks well represented at the Paris Games. Has any one person in particular stood out for you?
Well, this is really Wisconsin's week. Wisconsin excels in the track and field categories, and not just on Team USA. We have a lot of athletes, especially in the longer distance races, which to me, as someone who used to run track and cross country, are brutal. I mean, I don't want to be running 16 laps around the track, but these athletes do, and they're great at it. Wisconsin has a lot of athletes actually that are representing Australia and New Zealand. So they have a big running community down there. And a lot of those events are not until this weekend. They kind of save the longest for last.
Yes.
We also have an athlete. She's not a Badger. She was a Badger, and it's kind of a rough story because she transferred. So she left us, but she's originally from Milwaukee. Her name is Emily, and she's going to be racing in the marathon. And what's incredible about her is that until Olympic trials, she had only run a marathon distance 3 times before. And yet she finished first for Team USA. So that's an eye to watch. She's in the last race of the Olympics, which is on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Let's see.
What's your favorite sport to watch?
Oh, I just like the whole spectacle. I'll get sucked into pretty much anything, I mean, I was saying before about, catching Simone Biles out of the corner of my eye in the afternoon because of the time zones and being able to watch her win the all around gold medal. But then, I'll watch some of the shorter swimming races, but I didn't stick around for Katie Ledecky's because she does these distance swims and 30 laps back and forth in the pool. I mean, it's just, for me, it's not must watch TV,
What really gets me in both the long swimming races, but especially the 2-hour plus running races, is that professional athletes do it without any headphones. I just really can't contemplate that. I don't even know how I did it in high school running a 5K distance in cross country without any music. I mean, nowadays I can't walk anywhere without having my headphones in and listening to a podcast or some music. That's the really incredible part, especially in the pool. I mean, Katie Ledecky, she's frequently like an entire body or two ahead of these other athletes. So she doesn't even feel them on her heels to not have any sort of, pump you up music.
I feel like over the years, we continue to talk about the mental health of athletes, and then basically the head games, if you want to call it that. The training, whether it's put your own kind of music in your head or relaxation and breathing techniques or anything. It used to just be flat out, just brawn. Who is the strongest? Who is the fastest? But we've learned now that if you can, either like calm the voices in your head or whatever the case may be, that can give you an edge, even if you're not necessarily the most muscular one in the pool or in the gym.
They were asking that Katie Ledecky that after she won a few days ago. And they were asking what she thinks about when she races. And she says she does each lap for a different person in her life and thinks of them the whole lap, which I thought was a pretty sweet way of thinking. But you had also brought up gymnastics, Simone Biles. That's my personal favorite thing to watch. And although we don't have any Wisconsin connections to they're calling themselves the Golden Girls, the 5 members of the team this year, Chelsea Memel, who was a member of the 2008 silver medal winning team, she is from the Milwaukee area, and she's currently a coach with Team USA. So
Oh.
she is actually in charge. She has an interesting role, and it's really why Team USA wins so much,
Mhm.
because she helps the athletes determine what moves they're putting in their routines to maximize their potential judges scores. The scores of gymnastics, I miss when it was just 1 through 10, because
Yes.
I
It's
understood that.
right.
But nowadays, Simone Biles' difficulty is frequently like a maximum of like 15 point something. And Chelsea is the one that actually helps develop the skills that create that ranking, which is why she is the GOAT.
Well, and that's the thing is we have to acknowledge the coaches and all of this. Far too often they just get like a moment of TV time on the sidelines, but there's so much more to that, whether it's for an individual or for a team. So I'm really glad that you brought that up.
And gymnastics in particular, it's nice to see someone like Chelsea, who was there in the kind of like pre and post era of everything that went on with gymnastics, because they didn't have that excellent of coaches for a while. I mean, they were great at winning medals, but they were not treating the girls well. So
Right.
it's nice. That was the kind of coaches that Chelsea had on her time with Team USA. But it's
Mhm.
nice to see her be part of the change and bring in some new traditions and well-being measures.
Oh, that's great. I know in one of your posts you talked about somebody being the first Badger to medal at these games, getting a bronze in women's rugby. But you also made note that for the UW, it's the school's 18th medal of all time. So Badgers have always been well represented at the Olympic Games.
They have, and so the woman you mentioned, the first Badger to win a medal at this year's games, her name is Alev Kelter, and she is just a fascinating athlete because she won bronze for US women's rugby, which shout out to them. That was America's first ever medal
Hmm.
in that event. I loved also the alliteration of a Badger winning bronze. Seemed very on brand. I mean, we need to kind of change. Maybe we need to be the Gophers if we want to win gold. They
Okay.
stuck with the theme there.
Sure.
But what's amazing about Alev is that at Wisconsin, obviously there's no NCAA rugby. So she played not one, but two other sports, Division One, soccer and women's hockey, which women's hockey at Wisconsin is really the gold standard of hockey.
Right.
So it's incredible that, I mean, she just she deserves to be an Olympian with that
Hmm.
level of athleticism. And this was actually her third Olympics too. So it's nice to see, you know, she knows what losing and not winning a
Hmm.
medal is like. So to be on the other side of it, she got to be interviewed on the Today Show, sitting on the couch next to Hoda and Savannah. That just as a news nerds like us,
Yes.
that's the part to me that like sounds most exciting.
Yes, if you get waved over to the couch the way comedians used to by Johnny Carson, that you knew you were big. It's the couch that always does it. Another Badger that you mentioned, Grace Joyce was her name, and they were on the U.S. Women's Quad team in rowing. Again, one of those obscure sports that pretty much most people only watch if it's in the Olympics, but it's always nice to know if there's some kind of a hometown connection to these sports.
And in Wisconsin, we have not one but 3/4 connections, because Grace is actually the only former Badger that's in the Olympics this year that is not originally from Wisconsin. She went to the University of Wisconsin, but her hometown isn't here. The three other, Badgers that are in Paris representing us all were born and raised in Wisconsin too. So that's like an extra connection. But Badger women's rowing, I feel like that often gets lost in the conversation. We hear about how we mentioned the hockey team is always great. Women's
Hmm.
volleyball is always excellent. Women's rowing is frequently fantastic too. And they have a long history of sending Badgers to the Olympics. They've sent a Badger to every single games since the 60s. So
Really?
they've,
Wow.
and this year they sent four. They've sent four two other times before in history. I mean, they're just dominating that territory.
Yeah. I mean, here's another one. Wisconsin's Rose Lavelle played for the U.S. women's soccer team as well. Boy, we covered gymnastics. Do we
Well,
do
what's
some?
amazing about Rose, Pat, is
Yeah.
that sh she's kind of like an unassuming star of the team. She didn't get as much attention as, Megan Rapinoe or Alex Morgan,
Mhm.
but she is frequently the playmaker in these games, and she's just super humble. You see her all over the field. She absolutely gets everywhere as a midfielder. And this is her second Olympics. In 2021, she won bronze with the women's team. So the women's soccer team hasn't won gold since 2012.
Oh, you know what else I saw in a post of yours about Badgers was that the Olympics would have equal numbers of male and female athletes, although the Badger numbers were even better, as you put it. 9 of the 17 Olympians from the UW are women.
Isn't it crazy? So that in the 125, 20, I think it's 126-year history of the modern Olympic Games, we had never before had an equal number of men and women until this year. And the first Olympics actually had 0 women. So we've come a long way.
Yeah.
But the Badgers actually sent 2 more women than men this year. And it's nice to see some parity there. And also, I was actually just talking about my dad about this the other day, is that I feel like the Olympics are the one time where just collectively more people are talking about women excelling than men. I mean, if you think of the biggest names of the games, not just from Wisconsin, but we've already talked about Katie Ledecky, Simone Biles, going back, Alex Morgan was the name, Megan Rapinoe. Besides Michael Phelps and Usain Bolt, the main names that always come to mind tend to be women.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I noticed, though, as you were putting together this list, in the social media era that we live in, is that you managed to find an emoji for every person participating, whether they were swimming or rowing. There's little emojis for gold, silver, and bronze medals. It's become the Olympics have become a pictograph almost. You could almost go without the words in some of these cases.
I'm glad you appreciated my work, because it took me a very long time to handpick all. I think there's 17, right? 17 Badgers going.
Yep.
That was 17 handpicked emojis. That's what they pay me the big bucks for, Pat.
Yeah, right. Did you catch the opening ceremonies?
I did. The thing that I always find most interesting is how Mike Tirico can pronounce every country and every athlete's name so flawlessly.
Mike Tirico is amazing. He's been underrated in my book. I remember when he first came on the scene and thinking that guy was going to go places, and he has definitely lived up to the hype. Although, the original was Jim McKay from ABC Sports, and I remember watching him as a kid. And never underestimate the importance of a good anchor, whether you're talking about your Olympic broadcasts, your newscasts, and of course your track and field team. You need a good anchor grabbing that baton and running with it. On that abysmal pun note, we'll let things go. Christina Laurie has plenty of uplifting stories about Wisconsinites in the Olympics and so much more. Catch the newsletter at UpNorthNewsWI.com. Christina, thanks very much. Have a great day.
You all too.
So that's some of what we're seeing Olympic wise. Greg, you're telling me that there's alternative programming, shall we say, but now, are you really going to force me? Peacock is one of the things I've been holding out on. I've been trying to draw a line in the sand saying I can't get it all, but maybe, I guess, look, I know I have to get Peacock if I want to see the Packers opener. So yeah, maybe I should get it this week, you're saying?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Here's a couple of ideas. One, just get the trial. If you want to do that, that's cool. Also, maybe I know somebody who has a Peacock account that I can help you out with it.
Maybe.
NBC, MSNBC, Peacock, CSI, FBI, NSA. You're not listening right now. But yeah, I think it's worth it. It's fun. And yeah, if you want to watch that opener, you're probably going to have it as well. Write it off as a business expense. We'll talk about it the next day in our boring sports recap.
Right. So we'll talk about, what do you note here? The Kevin Hart, Kenan Thompson review. That sounds fun.
Yeah. Every 2 days they do a review, 30 minutes. It's kind of raunchy. It's like it's R-rated, but it's fun. It's really funny.
So that's because NBC can't do those things on the main network. That's why we get Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, exactly.
Which has been somewhat entertaining, but it's if you're going to give me a choice, give me Kevin Hart and Kenan Thompson being raunchy about the Olympics. Today's history lesson is coming up in just a bit. You're up north.
You broke my heart, cause I couldn't dance. You didn't even want me around. And now I'm back to let you know I can really shake them down. Do you love me? I can really.
We start today's history lesson in 1988 with a song from 1962. That's the Contours, of course. But they got a second bite of the apple, heading up the charts, peaking at number 11 on this day in 1988, because it was on the soundtrack of Dirty Dancing. That's right. Let's see. On this day in 1965, President Lyndon Johnson signed into law the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which has been chipped away at by a conservative Supreme Court in more recent years. Let's go back to 1960, where Chubby Checker was on Dick Clark's Saturday Night Beach Nut Show and performed this little ditty for the first time. Do you think when he was doing that, singing the song and just swiveling his hips a little bit, do you think he knew it would be like this national sensation?
At the time, no, but if you look at his greatest hits records, all of them are in a twist-based economy.
Yes, let's twist again. The peppermint twist.
Yeah.
Yes.
And at first, I was like, yeah, let's twist again. It's great. And then by like the end, they're like, oh, God, Christmas twist? Oh, no.
Now if we could just get a tie-in to Twisters, the movie somehow or another.
Right.
Hey, earlier we played Stevie Nicks' Don Henley, Leather and Lace. It was one of the many songs off her first solo album, Belladonna, that debuted this day in 1981. It included, of course, we've got, oh yes, the White Winged Dove for Edge of 17.
Just get in there. Yeah. Yeah. Rock.
She was rocking as well with Tom Petty, Stop Dragging My Heart Around, After the Glitter Fades. So basically all these folks looked at Stevie Nicks and said, oh yeah, you're a really good member of Fleetwood Mac, but can you do this on your own as a solo artist and do some duets? The answer is yes. Yes, she could.
She twirled twice and said, I can.
Yes. Coincidentally, on this day, 11 years prior, in 1970, at the Fillmore West in San Francisco, Christine McVie played her first gig with Fleetwood Mac. She would later become the band's first female member, joining her then husband John in the group. Happy birthday goes out today to one of the Spice Girls. That would be Jerry Halliwell. Ginger Spice is 52 years old today. As I've mentioned before, my daughters are in their early 30s, but I'm looking out at our living room right now, and I'm currently seeing a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old just bouncing around to this album when it first came out.
Did they ever dress up as one or other of the Spice Girls for Halloween?
No, I don't think they ever got in costume, but they definitely, with a couple of friends, they would try to do some of the dance moves. In fact, they still can do some of the dance moves.
Yeah, they can!
which just warms my heart. On this day in 1993, Sheryl Crow, then 31 years old, released her first album, Tuesday Night Music Club, and would eventually sell over 7 million copies. We've got a Wisconsin tie-in to today's history lesson. Happy 73rd birthday to Pat McDonald, co-founder of Timbuk 3.
Love this song.
Mm-hmm. This song, The Future's So Bright, I Gotta Wear Shades, won the 1987 Grammy for Best New Artist. He formed the duo with his then wife, Barbara K. McDonald, in Madison in 1984.
Wow.
I got a crazy teacher, he wears dark glasses. Things are going great.
And if you haven't watched the video, I encourage you.
Yes, I mean, it's still going to lift your spirits anytime. By the way, years later, in 2005, Pat McDonald co-founded Steel Bridge Songfest, an annual not-for-profit benefit concert and songwriting festival held in his current hometown of Sturgeon Bay. That first concert featured Jackson Browne, who played for free, and the local bridge got saved, and they're still doing it to this day. They did it back in June.
Love that.
On this day in 2015, Broadway was never the same after the addition of another one of those musicals that just kind of takes its place. I'm not going to say the Mount Rushmore because there's so many that would qualify, but on this day in 2015, Hamilton opened. Where are we at?
The Battle of Yorktown.
Oh, yeah. And this is
1781.
Thank you. Okay.
You know, when you ask those questions, I'm like, I don't know. What am I doing wrong?
No sweat. We're finally on the field.
I still, to this day, I've listened to this soundtrack
We get the job done.
5 times,
Yeah.
and I
So
still
what
get
happens if we
goosebumps.
win? I go back to
Of course, the
France
hip hop
and we
music,
freedom to my
hip hop infused musical based on the life of Alexander Hamilton. It opened on Broadway at the Richard Rodgers Theater 6 months after a sold out off Broadway debut. Coincidentally, when that show opened, Leslie Odom Jr., who played Aaron Burr, turned 34. It was his birthday that day. He is 43 today. Of course, you can't get to August 6th without the somber reminder that this is the anniversary of the atomic bomb being dropped on Hiroshima, Japan, killing about 70,000 people instantly. Tens of thousands would die in subsequent years from burns and radiation poisoning. On the National Day calendar today, this is Farm Worker Appreciation Day. This is National Night Out Day. This is National Root Beer Float Day. It has been a while since I've had a good root beer float.
Yeah, right?
It's kind of in that, milk and Pepsi type of thing. It's like, well, do you really put these two things together? Yeah, when done right with root beer. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you see the message I left you at the beginning of the show in our chat?
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Some monster texted a picture of Peeps flavored Pepsi.
Peeps
What?
flavored Pepsi. I mean, what are you supposed to, like you said, what are you supposed to believe in and after you hear that anymore?
Oh, I got the answer right there, Pat. It's nothing.
This is National Sandwich Month, and I did not come prepared with any special sandwich for today. So yes, Greg,
I got one for you.
Okay, what's today's sandwich nominee?
Peanut butter and banana.
Okay.
Do you like bananas?
I like bananas.
Do you like peanut butter?
I like peanut butter.
There you go.
No.
Okay.
I mean,
You wouldn't know. You never tried it.
Look, if we're going there, I mean, let's just go all the way. Let's drizzle some Hershey syrup on that thing too. You're he's giving me a look like, hey, you might be onto something there.
Half the secret is a dollop of Nutella. Hey, Tony Zimmerman, I don't want to hear that kind of talk.
Tony says no.
That better be for
YouTube.
Pepsi Peeps.
Yeah, let's hope so. Much more ahead in the second hour of Up North News Radio, live from Lake Wissota, here on the Civic Media Radio Network.
We lower our guns as he frantically waves their white handkerchief.
And just like that, it's over. We tend to our wounded.
Ms. Merlot, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Got that. Do you have like damage reports from any place?
No.
Okay, good. Just didn't want to be missing anything obvious.
Yeah.
So, all righty.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Minnesota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Along with meteorologist Brittany Merlot, Greg Bach in Waukesha, and the Lake Wissota studio windows are open for the first time in over a week. There is fresh air flowing through the house. It's a beautiful thing. The heat and humidity have taken a break, Brittany. It came with some thunderstorms and some rain still passing through the area, but this
Worth
is
it.
this is so gorgeous.
Yes.
How are things by you?
Oh, fantastic. We're already starting to see the sunshine. I don't have any clouds here. It is a gorgeous morning, very crisp as well. And like you said, comfortable. It's nice to have those windows open and the fresh breeze.
But wait, for an opposing view, here's
Yeah.
Greg Bach in Waukesha. It's a little black rain cloud.
It is a torrential downpour right now.
Aw, sorry you live south.
Hey, you know what? I don't buy that sympathy, Merlot.
You can tell the sarcasm in my voice.
Yep. So you go way up and you see Tony and Ashland's posting, finally a nice chill in the air. Got my Packers sweatshirt on with some coffee. Good morning. It's a good morning. Rob from Tigerton says that autumn feel. How nice
really
is
is.
that?
Rob, we
So-
hope you're doing better, feeling good.
Yep,
Yes.
very much
Yep.
so. We won't have that kind of heat that took them down the other day for at least for a little while. We're all 70s. We're riding the 70s train this week.
Oh,
Somebody call the OJs. It's a love train of 70s. Tell us more.
Yes. Today, high temperatures are going to be in the low 70s the further south that you live because it's still raining. You still have the cloud cover, so you're not going to get as warm. But everyone else up north, mid 70s will be the highest temperature today. Breezy with winds out of the northeast, gusting up to 15 to 20 miles per hour. So pulling in that crisp, refreshing, no humidity kind of air. And it does feel like fall this morning. So that's going to be the case as we go through the day today. Tomorrow, we get a bump a little bit warmer into the mid to upper 70s with plenty of sunshine. And we're holding off on all rain chances until Thursday, and that'll be in the northern half of the state.
All right. And Rob, by the way, from Tigerton says, good morning. Skies are clearing from the northwest 55. Picked up 1.7 inches of rain on Monday. Much more comfortable. And Greg clearly read ahead. He's making a face. I have a summer sausage and jelly sandwich. Rob, you've earned so much goodwill from this program, and you're risking it. Summer sausage and jelly.
Is it a savory jelly?
Yes, tell me it's some kind of a savory jelly of some sort. Please don't. If you give us any Smucker's flavor, this might really hurt us.
If it's preserves, get out of my country. I'm serious.
So while we wait to see if Rob adds anything on Facebook, we thank Brittany very much. No, don't do that. Rob says, blame my late mom. Don't do it now. Come on.
Rob.
Oh, Rob. Meanwhile, to clear up something earlier, Tony on YouTube making comments, he was not ripping on your peanut butter and banana sandwich. It was about the Peeps flavored Pepsi.
Oh, yeah.
That we were talking about earlier.
Ew.
That too.
Thank you. Okay,
Thank
Brittany,
you.
we're friends again.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Brittany, thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
All right. In the Olympics, Giannis Antetokounmpo and the rest of the basketball team from Greece, they've been eliminated by Germany in the quarterfinals of the Olympics. Germany shocking Greece 76-63, despite 22 points from Giannis, and so Germany will now advance to the medal round. The Brewers were off yesterday. They are in Atlanta now for a 3-game series that will start tonight. You can catch the pregame at 5:45 on civic media stations in Richland Center, Racine, Kenosha, Park Falls, and Oshkosh. First pitch is at 6:20 tonight. A reminder that there is an election 1 week from today. Very important election all across the state. There are primary elections in, I believe, 42 assembly districts, 5 state senate districts, 5 congressional districts. But then no matter where you live in Wisconsin, there are 2 questions on the ballot to amend the state constitution that would allow the Republican legislature to hamper even more distribution of funds designed to go to people in need. In this case, it would be able to let the legislature block the distribution of federal aid. Right now, they're blocking state money on all kinds of fronts about contaminated water and literacy programs and child care assistance and so much more. And they want to be able to do the same, which is why they're sneaking these constitutional amendments onto a ballot in August, when fewer people obviously will be voting compared to November. If you'd like to find out what's on your ballot, you can head to myvote.wi.gov and find out more about whether you have a primary on your ballot from one of these many districts, or if you just have the state constitutional referendums as well. Alicia Saunders writes in on Facebook, as a kid, we would have peanut butter, banana, and honey on a tortilla, and it was delicious.
I don't hate that at all.
I know. I would definitely try that one. I feel like we've opened up something cathartic with National Sandwich Month, and we're learning maybe just a little too much about some people.
Yeah, I still haven't unleashed my most controversial opinion about sandwiches, but I'm not going to say it today.
Okay. Consider us teased.
Exactly.
Okay. Let me explain the life of a news junkie or a politics junkie. Yesterday was a pinball machine. I am pinballing even as we speak, where I am scrolling to update Twitter. I am bouncing over to my email to check the inbox to look for any news on the running mate. I am keeping an eye out of the corner of my eye. I'm keeping an eye on the TV to see if there's any, banner that shows up on one of the cable channels. I've got Slack for the office, and so I'm looking at all those channels to see if anybody has seen anything that they want to post in terms of running mate news. Then back to Twitter, then back to email, then back to text messaging, because, they say if you sign up at the campaign, we'll let you know first who this is. No, I don't have to do this. I could just sit here and, wait to be spoon-fed by, CNN or whoever. But when you've got the bug, whether it's as in news, politics, or both, you want to be the one telling people what you've learned and not going, oh, no, really? So, yeah, Tony's actually right on YouTube where he writes, just pay attention to the notifications on your phone. It's the fastest. Probably, but do you know how many junk texts you have to sit through?
Oh my God.
In the hopes of, and there's been no shortage of groups. Now, in this case, it's on the Democratic side, the progressive side that I'm going to call out, but it's all over the place. But there are so many groups that have nothing to do officially with the campaign or with the Democratic Party. And they're all sending text messages saying, hey, don't you think Kamala Harris is great? Here, donate here. And it's, of course, not going to her campaign. It's going to some private group. And the same thing's happening to people who are Trump supporters, and their phones are blowing up, and they're going, I don't know what's real and what's not over here. And yet, in my case, you kind of feel like you have to, because, like you said, that's how you might get the first word about something happening. Like, let's say, for example, it's Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota.
Yeah.
Let's say that he's the one that's picked. There were people last night who were posting about keeping an eye on, they're watching FlightAware or Flight Radar, or one of those other apps, looking for any sign that any of these folks are on a private plane getting set to go. When actually several people noted that wouldn't happen if it was Tim Walz. They'd say, these are some of the posts. As if a Midwesterner wouldn't pack their car with 18 hours worth of snacks and leave at a sensible 3 a.m. to beat the traffic to Philadelphia today. Another one writes, Red Bull, beef jerky, Oldsmobile. Who needs an airplane? Here's one that Walls is saying, Kamala, I'll see you at noon. I've mapped out the best gas station pizzas along the way. Another guy writing, Walls would be good because he looks like the sort of solid older guy who always has hard candy in his pocket. And then my favorite, maybe picking Tim Walls is what it will take for Minnesotans to finally stop talking constantly about the Halloween blizzard of 1991. And I can tell you, as somebody who lived in the Twin Cities for the Halloween blizzard of 1991, no, even that's not going to stop us because that was the most ridiculous snowstorm ever. But
yeah,
at least you'll have something else to talk about with Tim Walls and not just the Halloween blizzard.
Tim Walls is definitely the guy who does all those things, gets in the car, he drives there, gets out, meets Kamala Harris. She goes, how was your trip? He goes, he's going to say the following things like, oh, real great. Traffic was fine. Made good time. Yeah. Made good time.
He will say made good time. Yes. Meanwhile, J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is now playing the role of lost puppy. Think of a puppy, stray that decided to go home with somebody and then realized I've made a bad choice and starts to follow somebody else instead. That'll be J.D. Vance for the next few days because he's basically going to look like he's stalking Kamala Harris and her running mate because he's already announced that, I don't know if he's in Philly today, but he's going to be in Eau Claire tomorrow. And he's going to be in the other cities and states where they're going in Michigan, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada. I mean, it makes him look either creepy or thirsty, depending on your point of view. And you're thinking, well, wait a minute, where's the Republican presidential nominee? Maybe he should be really active as well. Well, here's the schedule as Greg mimes playing golf. Again, Kamala Harris and her running mate, Pennsylvania today, Wisconsin and Michigan tomorrow, North Carolina on Thursday, Arizona on Friday, Nevada on Saturday. And then in the other column, here's where Donald Trump's campaign schedule is. Friday, Montana. Montana, a state that he won by something like 19 points last time around. I would not call Montana a swing state, but that's his low energy schedule for this week. A trip to Montana.
Yeah. Well, he's got to find his friends somewhere.
Yeah. So J.D. Vance instead will be making appearances. I'm not quite sure if it's going to be at Economy Furniture in Chippewa Falls or the Ashley Furniture Store in Arcadia, but somewhere J.D. Vance is coming to Western Wisconsin just in time to follow Kamala Harris and the running mate tomorrow. Still working on the details or waiting to hear the details on the Eau Claire rally for Kamala Harris and running mate. We'll pass that along as soon as we learn more. We'll continue unpacking the news on this Tuesday morning here on Up North News Radio, live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network. I warned you the OJs were coming. I have to give proper credit to the folks at the National Weather Service in the Twin Cities for their post saying that we are riding a 70s train of temperatures for the rest of this week, which I don't mind one bit. But hey, it also means you get to bring the OJs up. The daily newsletter from Up North News is available at UpNorthNewsWI.com. You can get that update every morning, Monday through Friday, from Christina Laurie. A lot about the Wisconsin State Fair and about how the cream puff is turning 100 this year. Plenty of other articles about State Fair food. Meanwhile, on the newsy side of things, an update on the proposal by President Biden, and of course supported by Vice President Kamala Harris, to institute term limits for the U.S. Supreme Court and a more binding and enforceable code of ethics. As Harris put it, there is a clear crisis of confidence facing the Supreme Court, as its fairness has been called into question after numerous ethics scandals and decision after decision overturning longstanding precedent. These reforms will help restore confidence in the court, strengthen our democracy, and ensure no one is above the law. And I couldn't agree more. You can read again about that in our newsletter. But back to the Supreme Court, these are, in fact, ethics scandals. And I find it so frustrating that we'd rather talk about, and by we, I mean the media, would rather talk about, Robert Kennedy Jr. and a bear cub and an incident from 10 years ago, rather than the very real scandal that has unfolded on our Supreme Court. And it's not just the fact that some of those justices lied during their confirmation hearings about Roe v. Wade being settled law, but it's now about all of the money that we're hearing about, all of the gifts, all of the vacations. Yesterday, the U.S. Senate Finance Committee discovered that another trip from billionaire Harlan Crow hadn't been disclosed by Justice Clarence Thomas. This one was a round trip from Hawaii to New Zealand for a week. Now, that would be bad enough, but it came not long after Citizens United, the decision that basically opened up the spigots to dirty money and corporate money into politics, and after the billionaire Harlan Crow gave Ginny Thomas, Clarence Thomas's wife, $500,000 to start a dark money political group. Now, I'm as frustrated as anybody else who would look at Senate Democrats and wonder, why are you sitting on your hands about this? And the reason why is that Republicans, like it or not, in Congress, managed to inoculate themselves by making up charges first of the things that they were, in fact, guilty of doing, so that when Democrats would do the same thing for cause, they could be accused of, oh, this is just tit for tat. You're just doing this, because you got caught. And what I mean by that is this. During the Trump administration, there were firings without cause, James Comey, the FBI director, being one of them, but there were countless others. None of them for cause, all of them for purely partisan reasons. So that if Democrats now were to take their job seriously and go after officials with credible reasons to investigate them, Republicans would look at them and say, oh, you're just doing that because the Trump administration, went after some Democrats. And that's unfortunate. Give the Republicans credit for being savvy enough to have that kind of a strategy, but that should not stop the pursuit of justice when things are wrong. When you have Supreme Court justices that are clearly corrupted, that are clearly accepting bribes under the guise of gifts. And the Senate should be doing much more about this. And much like the Trump cases, it may not happen right away, but it needs to happen. Trump is not going to be, I was about to say he's not going to be convicted before Election Day. He's been convicted of 34 felonies already. He's not going to be convicted of trying to stage a coup back in 2020. He's not going to be tried found guilty, possibly sentenced before Election Day. But the trials will go on so long as Trump himself doesn't become president again. And so while I'm very frustrated with what's happening with the U.S. Supreme Court right now, it is something that I feel pretty confident that next year you'll continue to hear about these incidents of gifts, bribes, whatever we want to call it, especially if the Senate is controlled by people who are pursuing and more interested in justice, not playing politics, but actually pursuing justice. Meanwhile, you've got J.D. Vance, Trump's running mate, who has also been talking about the pursuit of justice, but in a much more violent manner. There is a new book that's out that normally we wouldn't give the time of day to it. It comes from one of these far right, he's described as a provocateur, Jack Posobiec. And he's known for promoting the conspiracy theory that Democrats were running a satanic child abuse ring below a popular Washington, D.C. pizza restaurant. He's now got a new book out called Unhumans. And remember, one of the hallmarks of authoritarians is that they try to paint their opposition not as somebody with whom we have a disagreement, but as people who are less than human. And he goes right out and puts it in the title, Unhumans. It is just a repugnant book that says people on the left don't deserve the status of human beings, that they are, in the author's words, waging a shadow war against all that is good and decent, which will end in apocalyptic slaughter if they are not stopped. And that progressivism is the latest incarnation of an ancient evil dating back to the Roman Republic and continuing through the French Revolution and communism in Russia, writes Posobiec. They talk about, Francisco Franco, the Spanish dictator, being a hero, and the same with Augusto Pinochet in Chile. Who would associate themselves with a book like this? Well, the very first blurb in the book is from J.D. Vance. He writes, "In the past, communists marched in the streets waving red flags. Today they march through HR departments, college campuses, and courtrooms to wage lawfare against good, honest people. Jack Posobiec and Joshua Lysek, the co-author, reveal their plans and show us what to do to fight back." And fight is the right word. There's talk of violence and violent conflict as being necessary for their version of law and order to be restored. They speak again quite favorably about things like dictatorships, and they don't have a problem with what Donald Trump has said about how parts of the Constitution might need to be overthrown or ignored. It is that kind of mindset that's in a book, and one where J.D. Vance has just written a blurb promoting it. Thought you'd like to know. We'll continue unpacking the news and continue on VP Running Mate Watch. Coming up as Up North News rolls on for this Tuesday morning, August 6th. Back in a bit here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Yes, still a mystery. Welcome to our segment where we were going to talk all about the person named Kamala Harris's running mate. At least that's really what I thought was going to happen late yesterday. Joke's on me. I'm like, you know what? We're not going to book a guest for 7:30. We're going to need this time to talk about, Governor Shapiro or Governor Walz or Senator Kelly or something like that. Go through all the ramifications and to read some of these reports. And again, take them with a grain of salt. But there were two different posts saying that the vice president said she wanted to sleep on it one more time and would make her decision in the morning. Personally, I don't believe that. I think there's just way too much prep involved in all this. But everybody is hiding their cards really well. You had Josh Shapiro playing basketball in his driveway with his kid last night. You had Tim Walz going about his business, going to a Kamala Harris fundraiser and, making small talk with the folks while he was there. How would I do in trying to keep something that big to yourself until it's time to make that announcement? Wouldn't that just be crazy? You're going to be like, I got to tell you something.
I know that I could tell two people
Mm-hmm.
for sure. I could tell my wife, Bridget, because I know she would keep it a secret. She would not tell anybody because she knows the ramifications. And then I could tell my best friend, Amber, because I know that in the end, she'd be like, yeah, I don't care. She'd be like, I'm going back to work now. Can you tell me more important things later? So yeah. I can only do that. But yeah, if you said you can't tell anybody, like, you shouldn't tell me at all then.
Yeah. Let's catch up on a few of the comments from the text line around here. Although I do want to pass along, Tony says it would be so hard not to drop hints. But that's the thing. You think you're going to be clever and drop a hint? Like maybe I'd say something like, I'm going to go in the next room and watch Veep. Okay, I'll be over here if you need me.
This announcement's going to be from the windows to the walls.
Exactly.
What?
So Matt in Germantown on the text line, 855-75-CIVIC, again, 855-75-CIVIC, regarding Peacock and watching Olympic coverage and eventually the Packers game. He says they do a Thanksgiving promo, $22 for the whole year or something like that. So I think what I need to do is I need to pick, what service am I watching the least and let that one go. Although I let Hulu go once before, and then this little show called Only Murders in the Building showed up, and I couldn't stop hearing about it, so I signed up again. I've got HBO because of Game of Thrones. I watched virtually nothing on HBO since Game of Thrones was done. How many years ago was that? Still getting that,
Do you watch the John Oliver?
I do love the John Oliver. That's why I haven't given it up. It's the one thing I'm like, I'm paying for this guy, but it's worth it. Tony's getting rid of Paramount Plus. He says bye-bye to them.
I would totally get rid of that, but that was a birthday present for Bridges. And also we're the hub, like the amount of people who have our streaming services, it takes a lot of me not to turn into an old man and be like, so who's going to give us one of their streaming services then?
Right. From the text line, Matt also texted in a couple of things on National Sandwich Month. He gets into is a burger a sandwich? What about a hot dog? We don't have time to twist our brains around these things. We're just going the traditional route here. But Matt also said the Halloween blizzard of 1991, we're back to that again, was a terrible storm. I couldn't go trick-or-treating. I was 3 years old. My daughter was 2 years old, and we had a 2-year-old and a newborn. And Sherry, God bless her, tried to take the 2-year-old trick-or-treating in horizontal snow, made 2 doors, maybe 3, and said, this is dumb, and came back.
Someone called Child Protective Services.
Right? Yes. Yeah. You'd almost, but in the Midwest, you have those Halloweens where why do you even have a costume? Because you're going to have a winter coat over it.
Yeah.
So that's where I'd made my case previously that Halloween needs to be moved. We need to take it back, take it back a month. Instead of October, make it last day of October, make it the last day of September. Why not?
Pat Kreitlow, 2024.
There's my edgy campaign promise. I'm serious. Why can't we do that? Why can't we?
I dare you. I dare you to try and make that a serious push. All the goths will come for you.
All the goths. I suppose there's a reason why nobody else has brought it up before. The gods got them. Yeah. Japan's Nikkei is much higher, soaring 10% in early trading today, the day after that huge plunge that took Wall Street along for the ride. But as has been noted, and as you'll hear in this clip from an analyst on Fox News, it's one thing for the markets to correct overpriced stocks, and in Japan's case, to push back against higher interest rates. But when wages are still up, when employment is still up, when inflation is still moving in a downward direction, the last thing you want to be doing is panicking, no matter how much these hosts on Fox News are trying to get this analyst to panic.
Yeah. Robert, you cover the economy as well. If we're headed for a recession, how difficult could this be for Kamala Harris?
Yeah, I'd love to debate both you guys on the economy. GDP's higher, jobs is higher, wages is higher. The stock market's up huge under Biden. This idea of what you guys are talking about, there's more 2,000-day losses under President Trump than 500-day losses under Joe Biden. We should get the facts right on where the economy is. Bill, you do a great job on that. But we know that Friday was, if not for the outstanding 15 million plus jobs of the Biden-Harris campaign over the last 3.5 years, 140,000 less plus is normal jobs. There's not going to be a recession. I actually think that there's a possibility that we're going to have the August numbers look incredibly strong.
But a lot of those recovery jobs coming back, we know that. But listen, the markets are spooked at the end of last week.
A lot of them are spooked. A lot of them were not. I love every so often they'll put somebody on like my friend Dan Cannon, or Pete Buttigieg, and it'll just set them straight. And they look so flustered when somebody actually hits them with, facts.
Well, and Tommy Lahren, who I could talk about for hours, she just has this smug look on her face, like, you don't know what you're talking about. And she's shaking her head like, he is an expert. You are not.
Yeah.
And this incredulous feeling towards expertise is so infuriating.
Expertise. Oh, that's elitist. That's very elitist.
I know. I'm an East Coast elitist from Wisconsin, son of a truck driver.
To be an expert on something is so elitist. Another business note that's worth noting. Boy, you can tell this guy worked on his notes furiously today. Here's something else in business worth noting, that a judge has ruled against Google in an antitrust case that's very reminiscent of a ruling in 2000 against Microsoft. And while neither one of these cases has the immediate everyday impact of, say, the breakup of AT&T way back in the day, the judge breaking up the Microsoft monopoly actually did help us enjoy more options for browser services and prevented a monopoly grip on the development of the internet back in the day. Well, now a federal judge has said the same thing about Google and the search industry, and the way that it was stifling rivals in a way to protect its monopoly. And I really liked some of the things that the judge had to say, in that you can be big in the marketplace, but you can't use that bigness to be unfair. Here's how Bill Baer, a former top antitrust official in the Justice Department, put it. He said, the Google ruling is significant because it applies to big tech platforms the notion that while you can be dominant, you can't abuse that dominance. And that's what Google has now been found guilty of. And as a result, I think we may again see improvements in search engines. I remember when Google first came on the scene. I'd actually gone to, I was working for Channel 13 at the time. I was at a Poynter Institute conference for journalists. And one of the reporters was giving a talk all about this brand new thing called Google. And how, think of all the search engines we had before. There was, I remember Ask Jeeves, and I'm sure everybody had one or another. And Google's searches were so much better, so much more broad-based. You could find so many more things. It was a wonder at the time. But I know I'm not the only person who has said it feels like Google has lost something on their fastball. When it comes to what they're coming back with. You feel like you're not getting everything, and you wouldn't mind trying something else. But everybody that's tried to become a competitor to Google has found that they can't get into the market because this browser or this computer maker or this phone maker has set up Google to be the default search engine because Google paid them a bucket of money to do that. And a judge has finally said, that's not just incentive, that's monopolistic. And so maybe we'll get some better options.
I mean, I am a Google user. I have a Google phone, Google laptop, and I use the Google suite of Office things. And when you entangle yourself so much in that world, it's hard to see what you're talking about because I just instinctively go there. I feel like if I'm using all our stuff, I'm going to get the best searches. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't think about the optimization or options I have. So when I saw that, I'm like, oh, are we really still we're telling a company they're a monopoly? We're doing this again? This is happening again? I felt like Google going to court was a fool's errand because they're Google.
Yeah.
If oil companies can pay $100 million in fines and still be like, we didn't have any fault, I'm like, Google will be fine. But this is very interesting, and we'll see where this goes in the next few months.
Yeah, I mean, experts say they might, for example, be forced to split off their Chrome browser. You can be in the search business, but you can't be in the browser business. They might force them to get rid of the Android mobile operating system. And again, let somebody else take that in much the same way that when Ma Bell was broken up, AT&T was now just the long distance company. Later a cell phone company too, but at the time, just the long distance company, and all the baby bells, like Wisconsin Bell became Ameritech, became something I don't even know what it became because nobody has landlines anymore. But you saw the breakup into individual companies and more innovation. And that's what I think this judge is trying to get at there. One more note to pass along from the political world that I didn't have time for yesterday, so I think a lot of folks have seen this by now. But Congressman Derek Van Orden had claimed that he was viciously assaulted, attacked by this woman at the Republican National Convention. That she was like elbowed in the ribs or something like that, and this woman consequently was arrested or detained for something like 15 hours before being released really late at night over this notion that she had assaulted a member of Congress. Well, WISN TV has now obtained the police body cam footage.
Let me guess.
It was not a vicious assault.
Yeah.
It was not even. It doesn't even rise to the level of an NBA flop. When somebody's going for the basket and they act as if somebody shot them from the Texas School Book Depository.
Even James Harden was like, "Dude, you're overdoing it." All right. That was my NBA reference for the day.
There you
Come
go.
Back next year when I'm done. You know what really bothers me though about Pat is that this happened like 4 or 5 days after the attempt on President Trump.
Yeah.
And Derek Van Orden referred to it as political violence.
Right. Oh, he put out this very strong statement about it. And I'm wondering if things shouldn't go the other way. Does this rise to the level that Derek Van Orden filed a false police report? I mean, you look at that body cam footage and you wonder if the woman involved here might not have a case. So maybe Congressman Van Orden could tone it down a bit from, political violence claims to that childish behavior, in front of the Crawford County Democratic office over the weekend where he littered their office with signs and buttons. And maybe concentrate instead on how, while the Democratic primary in the 3rd Congressional District is, shall we say, spirited right now, somebody is going to come out of that primary a week from today and find a united Democratic Party seeing a seat that is ripe for the picking, at least with every incident that Derek Van Orden provides on his own. Nobody's forcing him to do these foolish things. Chad Holmes will tell us what's coming up on his show on Bull Falls Radio, coming up in just a bit. You're up north. Chad Holmes joins us now on Up North News Radio, where my phone is blowing up and saying that there is something coming soon, and I am not in a position to say that it is somebody or another, only to tell you that there are a lot of posts about Tim Walz right now. But again, people could just be looking at cars outside his house and reading way too much into this. But it is Chad Holmes. It seems a lot like draft day, where they're saying the pick is in. And so now you wait to see what name comes up on the scoreboard. And I hate likening politics to sports as often as other folks do. But in this case, the pick is in, Chad Holmes.
Well, it's better than the mock drafts. And unfortunately, we've seen a lot of mock drafts over the last couple of weeks. And I have to very respectfully disagree with something you said earlier.
Pat, hey, Pat.
Yes.
We have breaking news.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It is Tim Walz.
Okay. And
Tim Walz is going to be Vice President Harris's pick for vice president for the nomination of the 2024 presidential campaign. I almost said Olympics.
And who are you talking to, and where are they getting that from?
This is coming from Jim Acosta, coming through on Twitter right now. CNN anchor. He is reporting it right now. Tim Walz will be her running mate.
Okay, so that's Jim Acosta, and now I'm seeing somebody from Bloomberg putting it down there. Others are passing along the CNN news as well.
I see ex-user at Musk Trump 69 is also reporting it. So.
Chad, like the guy who liked jelly with his sandwich, get out of my country.
That was summer sausage and jelly, by the way. Yes. So yeah, now here's a Caitlin Collins from CNN is citing 4 people close to the process as saying that it will in fact be Governor Tim Walz. So
congratulations, Jim and Caitlin. You got it before the announcements.
Yes.
Congratulations, everybody.
Yep.
And by the way, I respectfully disagree with something you said earlier.
The sports guy is about to chime in here.
Ooh, yeah. Chad's getting spicy already in the morning.
You acted like, we shouldn't be talking about this RFK Jr. thing with the bear. I think that is something worth talking about, more than speculating for 18 different segments on who the vice presidential candidate is going to be. I think that because when you look at the numbers that he's ultimately going to get, they could swing Wisconsin, they could swing Pennsylvania, they could swing. I mean, I think that we need to throw water on this celebrity fetish this country has with, if you have a certain name or a certain celebrity, you get 5% of the vote just off the top. I guess I
couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more with that. It is absolutely essential that we try to get this celebrity component out of things.
And he's out of his mind.
there is that.
That's why I asked about John Oliver, because Sunday he talked about RFK Jr. in depth, and it was
scary,
disturbing, terrifying. And he kept saying, like, he's a Kennedy. It's like so weird to me. But yeah, guys, can I just take a moment? I got to break news on radio, and that felt pretty cool. All right.
As well, you should. Yeah.
Oh, and one other thing, because I was running late, so I was going to grab one of our T-shirts, and on the back of it says "All Truth and No Bull" for Bull Falls Radio.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
And unfortunately, it would have been a wonderful little thing to put up here, but I was running late, so I couldn't grab it out of the closet. You said earlier, in the hour, I guess I'm just going to be correcting you for the entire segment here today.
By all means, that's what I'm here for.
You said Germany shocked Greece in Olympic basketball. Germany was the favorite. Not a shocker. So.
I was rattling off AP copy in that case. That one was not me. That was yes. Yeah. Yep. The fault there lies with whomever I ripped and read.
All right, I am done with my corrections.
It's okay. I think every like any good newspaper, you need a correction section over here. You need an ombudsman. So thank you for
that is so 1990s past.
I know that crazy 20th century thinking.
Editors anymore. It's just it's all out there.
Yep. So away we go on Tim Walz, and there will be a lot to say. The story that we're about to publish on our website will note that Walz made school lunches free for all students, create a paid family and medical leave program, increased public school funding, legalized recreational marijuana, made abortion a fundamental right under state law, and, perhaps for some people best of all, protected fans buying tickets online to see Taylor Swift. And to all of these things, Tim Walz pleads guilty and in fact said rather tongue-in-cheek to one interviewer, yeah, what a monster, huh?
Yeah.
That's what we're going to get from Tim Walz.
Kids are going to have full bellies so they can learn.
Yep.
I will say, frankly, other than some of the stuff that you just talked about, I do not know Tim Walz all that well over in this. I think maybe over in the western part of the state, you probably get a lot more Minneapolis television coverage and probably see a lot more of him. I like the idea, like you said there, that he was able to think on his feet to make a comment like that, because I do think that that's one of the things about Mayor Pete, that as this whole thing kept going and going and going, I was hoping for him, because I understood the whole reasons probably why.
But you understand if Kamala Harris wins, he's not going anywhere.
No,
he'll probably. I mean, there's talk that he would be Secretary of State.
Exactly. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that to get over the finish line in November, I think he would have been the type of guy that's because again, all these others are unknown. I mean, could it be again like a Tim Kaine that turned into just a big I mean,
that's not going to be this guy, Greg.
I sure hope so.
I'm gonna ask a question here, and please know who I am and the things I believe in. But I don't know if America is ready to vote for a woman of color with a gay man on the ticket as well.
I agree 100% with
and I hate that. I hate that to death.
And I hate and instead you're going to watch Tim Walz take on folks like that with that kind of mindset and find such wonderful ways to disarm them. There's a reason he won. He's not an overnight sensation, folks. He represented a congressional district in southern Minnesota for 10 years, a Republican district. This Democrat won this Republican district for 10 years for a reason. So it's not about him helping carry Minnesota. That's safe now. But Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, he is absolutely going to connect with them. And Chad, I sense you will have plenty to talk about over the coming 2 hours here.
I certainly think so. And let's have 4 vice presidential debates.
well, okay, in 4 years, or 8, as the case may be.
The more they get together with JD Vance, the better.
Yes, please. Thank you,
I
Mr. Holmes.
JD in Eau Claire tomorrow.
Of course I will. Yes, I'll be over at Slumberland for that. Right. All right. Thank you. Greg will be having a lot more to say over with Matt and Air on Air at 10 a.m. Thank you, gentlemen. And thanks to all of you for being part of our day. Up North News is the Wisconsin outlet for Courier, a pro-democracy news network building a more informed, engaged, and representative America. Follow us at upnorthnewswi.com. Have a great day.